There is huge power in saying no. Now, I could come at this conversation from many, many different angles, whether it be habits, self-defeating habits, patterns in the mind, or we're talking about relationships with narcissists. But the power of no is huge. We can gain so much self-trust, self-confidence inside of ourselves when we begin to learn how to say no. Now, most of us, guilty, especially me, and you probably share this same thing with me, is that on this journey we can be huge pleasure seekers. And that's wonderful. There's nothing wrong with seeking pleasure, because used in the right way, that will take us inwards into that search for eternal pleasure, or at least pleasure that isn't defined by external outcomes. We call it in yoga vishoka, the joy, the unbridled joy that is our pure natural state of being anyway. We just cover it up with so many samskaras, or mental tendencies and mental afflictions. How is there power in the words no? Well, you say no to a narcissist and see how much power there is in it, because their reaction will be completely, what? Especially if we've been going along a process of saying yes and people pleasing for a long period of time. And I must tell you, I've been very much guilty of that, and there's nothing wrong with it. Of course we want to please people, that's a wonderful thing. But are we doing it because our self-worth is invested in their response? This is how we begin attracting narcissistic relationships, isn't it? And then of course that will affect our self-esteem. So there's power in the word no. But this comes down to tendencies too, doesn't it? Self-defeating patterns inside of ourselves. What if we're the ones that need to say no to circumstance? Meaning, let's say you have loads of friends that want to go out and party. Well, when we're 18, that's great. That's all we want to do. But as we get a little bit older, we begin to see, I'm losing energy to this. I much prefer the sober state of being because it's pristine, it's clear, it's energized. And as soon as I have a drink, my prana dims and I begin to lose that pristine energy inside of myself. And so there's power in saying no to these things. Because when we say no, what do we get? Well, we get a few things. First of all, we gain the self-mastery. We gain the ability and the self-confidence to say no a second time. Because the only thing holding us back from really releasing some of these old tendencies that we have inside of ourselves is actually stopping doing them. We can breed a desire deeply inside of ourselves to want to stop to do something, and that's a wonderful first step, because once we want to stop doing something, we know the end for it is near. But we can carry on in that phase of wanting to stop doing something that's harming me for a very long time. And I must tell you, I've spent a good probably 2, maybe even 3 years wanting to stop doing something but not actually stopping. And the missing key for me was yogic sadhana. It's really simple. We must engage in yogic sadhana. So why do we pick up the bottle? Why do we go out and eat food? Well, because we have mental tendencies inside of ourselves that end up diminishing our sense of self-worth, like negative self-critical thoughts. And once our self-worth is diminished, we've opened up a hole inside, haven't we? How do we fill up that hole? Well, the only true way to fill up that hole is to get on the yoga mat and do our yoga, because it will fill that hole up. But of course, we aren't trained to do that in our childhood, so we get trained to do what our parents do, which is pick up the bottle, or go to McDonald's and abuse our bodies in these ways. And it's all right that we do it, you know, it's our own choice, it's our own body, we can do whatever we like with it. It's your divine right, shall we say, to do whatever you wish to do with your body. But in time, we begin to see the consequences, and we get fat, and we get lazy, and we get into a depression, and we get into lots of anxiety states of being, especially if it comes to drinking, that we can't seem to get out of, because the loop seems to be, oh God, now I feel rubbish, oh let me go and have a drink, and then the next day, oh God, I feel worse, the only thing that's going to pick me out of this is a drink. But these cycles are never ending. It won't stop until we take action with yogic sadhana. It's said that the only way out of these samskaras, these mental tendencies that hold us in depression and into anxiety states of being, is through Kriya Yoga. Kriya Yoga just means yoga in action. Really, it means physical asanas. Asanas are just the physical postures that we do on the yoga mat. And if you're interested in beginning to engage in some yoga, if your journey's come to that point where you feel like, yeah, I'm really ready to take this to the next level, something authentic has happened within me and I want to take it to the next step, I want to pay respect to this beauty that's beginning to awaken in me, then of course down below you can sign up for the free breathing practice. It will get you started, it won't take you all of the way. You can sign up for the free community for awakening souls, for people that just have an experience and then they pop off and then don't know what's going on inside of themselves. You can have a support community, a support structure. It's on Facebook, it's of course free. And as well, you can sign up for the one-to-one coaching. It's free to apply. Of course, it's not free for the coaching itself because I need to live and eat. And as well, there's a new very affordable thing down below, and that's the living yoga method, and that's accessible down below for a very affordable price. You can find the link down below. Moving on, the yogic sadhana just needs to be done. We can't really avoid it, unfortunately. That's at least my experience of life. I've done my yogic sadhana for a good 5 years now, and I've still not completely cleared all of my mental afflictions, because we have really gross ones and then we have quite subtle ones, and the subtle ones are the killer. They're the big problem inside of ourselves. Sorry, as my alarm goes off in the background, you can probably hear it. There's a fire downstairs and I'm not going to do anything about it. I'm going to let it consume me if it must, because there's a fire burning in my belly to talk about exactly this. Because there's power in saying no. But when we say no, we get so much back from that. We get the self-confidence to say no again, and we begin trusting ourselves, because where's my words? When we gain that level of self-control, that level of self-mastery, we begin to trust ourselves in any situation, isn't it? We can't be convinced, and we can't be manipulated in these situations, because we're so strong and we're not scared, because we're no longer people pleasing so much. We're not scared to say no to people. No, that isn't going to serve me. I love you so much, but what you're offering is not for me. Or no to the drink inside of ourselves. The idea might come up, and what if we just said no? Well, then in time we have so much control over those mental tendencies. We see that I can change them. I can respond to them in a way that's healthy for me, and just say no. And then these big things that seem so big, like addiction and that, they just drop away. But we have to bring ourselves to a position to be able to say no, and sometimes we're not ready, are we? And that's why we do the yoga, to get ready. We're getting ready to be ready, in a sense. But sometimes, in a few, people are just ready already, you know? And if you're one of them, then just say no and watch your life change for the better. I hope this video helps. Let me know if it did. Talk to me down below and I'll engage in conversation. I always reply to the messages, especially within the first 24 hours. So have a great evening, and namaste.